gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior.
It's the impressions that are impressed upon us, engraved in our hearts, engraved in our lives by the examples that God places in our life. Primarily from our parents, our mom, but primarily from our dad. We learn character from our fathers. It's engraved into our life. Mordecai was a man of character, as we shall see this morning. See, Esther, according to Esther 2:7, had no father or mother. Her parents had died. Her cousin, Mordecai, obviously older than Esther, had to make a decision. What's going to happen to Esther? He could have just let her go, let her survive on the streets or whatever, probably sold into prostitution. So, no telling what would have happened to Esther. But instead of shirking his responsibility, Mordecai did the right thing. He took Esther into his home and he raised her as his own daughter. Did he have to do that? No. In essence, Mordecai adopted Esther to be his child. To me that's so exciting. I hear a lot of couples today who are talking about that, adoption. And when you have a child, it may not be your biological child, but when you bring a child into your home to raise them, you raise them as your son or daughter, and you become their father. One of my heroes is John Oshaki. I'll embarrass him, but John loves the Lord. He's always speaking about God's Word, and he and Kathy have adopted children into their home. I mean, John is almost, 45 years old, something like that? 46, closer to 70. But here's a man who's making a difference. He's making a difference in the world one child at a time. One child at a time. That's what adoption does. You bring children into your home. And as I said, many of you are praying about that. And I want to encourage you. What a wonderful way to fulfill the Great Commission. To bring a little boy, to bring a girl into your home and to raise them in a Christian environment. That's what Mordecai did for Esther. And we had our student minister at Sylacauga. He and his wife went to the Ukraine, home of little John Paul. And they adopted 2 boys there and brought them into their home. And they're raising them now in Birmingham, Alabama, in a Christian home. Impacting the world for Christ. One child at a time. That's what adoption is all about. Mordecai was a man of character because he faced his responsibilities. He faced his responsibility. Being a father is a great responsibility. Now, for most men, fathering a child is not difficult, but being a father is. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference. It seems that mothers decide to be mothers long before a man decides to be a father. A mother has 9 months to bond with that baby. A mother has 9 months to develop those mothering instincts. And for a dad, I know he's excited, or he should be, and he tries to be helpful, but for the most part, he's just an observer. It really doesn't impact his life, depending on the temperament of his pregnant wife. That really can impact your life sometime. But his moment of decision comes in the labor room, delivery room. I'll never forget when KJ, our firstborn, came into the world and the doctor handed me this little boy. That's the moment of decision. That's when you decide, sure, you're a father, determine whether children grow up attending church or not. And here's the shocker. Ladies, don't be offended by this. This is research. The habits of the mother have almost no influence over their kids' future devotion. This is according to this study. Here's the facts. When mom is a regular church attender, but dad comes infrequently, when mom comes often, dad every now and then, just 3% of their kids go on to become regular church members. When mom is regular and dad never attends, only 2% of children who grow up in that family attend church. He says, now let's flip the chart. What if dad is faithful? When both mom and dad attend church regularly, according to the research, 33% of kids grow up attending church regularly. When dad is regular and mom only goes once in a while, the figure goes up 38%. When they both go, 33%. When dad is faithful and mom is here hit and miss, it goes up to 38. Now, women, I don't want you to say, well, I'm just going to stay home, but listen to what. Here's the real bombshell according to the study. When dad is faithful and mom never attends church, 44% of the children grow up to be faithful in church. That's amazing. Because they're watching their dad. Our children learn what's really important by watching us. Mordecai was a man of character. Mordecai was a man of conviction. Esther had seen him in the heat, refuse to bow, to take a stand for God, never to crumble. And so her attitude was, if I perish, I perish. She wasn't afraid of the king. Lastly, Mordecai was a man of confidence. Chapter 4, verse 14. Mordecai says to Esther, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this? Mordecai was confident that the Lord would deliver his people. If Esther didn't speak, the Lord would deliver his people from somewhere else, from someone else. And so what he says whenever he asks the question, and who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this, what he was saying in there is that he is putting her life into the hands of a sovereign God. He's saying, you're my daughter, but this is why God has you in this place. This is why you are here. And so what does Mordecai do? Can you imagine the heart of a father releasing his daughter to say, go? And that king could have taken her life just like that. But he said, I'm going to trust God. See, Mordecai was a man of confidence because his faith was in God. His faith was in God. He released Esther into the hands of God. Parents, we have to do that. Dads, we have to do that. I know Teresa and I prayed that Jesus would come back before KJ had to start kindergarten. We didn't want to have to release him to anything. Actually, he started going to Miss Peggy's when he was 4 years old, or 5. Anyway, there's that moment of release. Max Lucado has a wonderful way of writing. I want to read this to you. If you're like me and all of your children are grown, this will bring back memories. If you're a young father looking forward to this day, hopefully it'll help you be prepared. But here's Max Lucado and his account of his daughter's first day of kindergarten. He says, Jenna, wake up. It's time to go to school. She'll hear those words 1,000 times in her life, but she heard them for the first time this morning. I sat on the edge of her bed a while before I said them. To tell the truth, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to wake her up. A strange hesitancy hung over me as I sat in the early morning darkness. As I sat in the silence, I realized that my words would awaken her to a new world. For 4 lightning-fast years, she'd been hours and hours alone. And now that was all about to change. We put her to bed last night as our girl, exclusive property of Mommy and Daddy. Mommy and Daddy read to her. Mommy and Daddy taught her, listened to her. But beginning today, someone else would too. Until today, it was Mommy and Daddy who wiped away the tears and put on the Band-Aids. But beginning today, someone else would too. I didn't want to wake her. Until today, her life was essentially us, Mom, Dad, and baby sister Andrea. Today, that life would grow. New friends, a teacher. Her world had been this house, her room, her toys, her swing set. Her world today would expand. She would enter the winding halls of education, painting, reading, calculating, becoming.